We're having a good time, but talking about a very serious issue, and we're talking bullying. And we used to think of bullying as that playground situation, but it's gone beyond that. It's gone to social media. It's gone, more discussion when it comes to workplace bullying. I'm joined by family caregiving expert Stephanie Erickson here this morning. Welcome. It's great to have you here.
Thanks, Derick.
And this is something we're both very passionate about.
Yeah.
And I want to talk, first of all, about what constitutes bullying in most people's minds now.
Well, I think they still go back to the playground where you're being pushed and being called names.
Right.
But I think it's mostly about the feeling of the victim, let's say, and how are they feeling intimidated? Are they feeling isolated? How are they feeling with the interaction? Because I might make a joke with you and you laugh and think it's funny, and someone else would take that as being bullying, as
right.
I'm making fun of somebody. So I also think it's about our own perception.
Well, let's talk about the different types of bullying. What are the different types of bullying out there?
Well, there's obviously physical.
Yeah.
There's also verbal. But to me, the one that's the most interesting is the passive type of bullying. It's talking behind someone's back, excluding them, the cyberbullying where you have anonymity, you're in silence. I think that's less talked about because it's really hard to identify.
Yeah, and I want to talk about social media because,
Yeah.
You've experienced bullying yourself, as have I, as I'm sure most of our viewers
Right.
watching. There's a large percentage of the population have experienced it, but it has changed dramatically. Let's talk about those changes and how social media has changed it.
I have to say I'm so thankful there was no social media when I was growing up, because I'm sure I would have been a victim. But I see it with my daughter, who's 13, and she has her phone and she's on social media, and the things that people are saying to each other, it's just awful. The one benefit is you can do a screenshot, so you have proof. So if you are going to speak up later, you actually have proof that something has happened. But so much of that social media bullying is from people we don't even know. And then what do you do?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. So what do you do? I mean, I guess, the easiest thing to do is block that person and ignore. And I think that's important. But, we're emotional beings, and we read these things and they hurt us. But what can you do if it's somebody that's a complete stranger?
Well, I think it's to just not engage is the best thing, because what fuels a bully is your response.
Right.
It's like that when you're trying to push somebody around, intimidate them, manipulate them. They're getting angry, upset, engaging. It's just going to fuel you. So I think the best thing to do is just let it go. And if necessary, just stop social media. I mean, do you really need it?
And many people would say, depending on the type of career that they have, that they do need it.
Yeah,
so,
that's
that makes it very difficult. I want to talk about workplace, because you sent along some stats that I think, surprised me and probably would surprise our viewers. When it comes to workplace bullying, how many people out there, percentage-wise, are saying that they feel a victim of workplace bullying?
They're saying about 35%, which to me was a huge number when I came across that, and about 17% quit their jobs. I fall into both those categories. I was bullied in a workplace. It was that passive type of bullying that was hard to identify. Eventually, I understood, and I actually left a job because of it. So I actually fall right into that.
Yeah, and that's a difficult one to approach, depending on who's doing the bullying. Obviously, if it's, a colleague that is on the same level as yourself, you can go to your boss and management. But if it is management or your boss, what can you do in that kind of situation? You mentioned a lot of people quit, but not everyone can afford to do that, right?
No, it's true. And I think, too, that the climate of the organization and the tone of the organization is really what's important, because even if it's peer-to-peer and it's a colleague, if your organization thinks that that's normal behavior, nothing's going to get done, even if you do go to your boss. Hopefully there are workplace policies, there's an HR department, but again, not all organizations have that. So a lot of times people are really stuck because they're relying on that job financially, and what are they going to do?
And I imagine, like most, you would suggest you have to document these things, right? Because that's one of those issues where it happens to you, and then a few months later you forget the exact situation, and then if you're confronted to talk about it, and you can't relay all of the information, unfortunately, it gets lost, right?
I'm glad you brought that up. Documentation is really important, every single incident. And if you're lucky enough to have a colleague that supports you, who can act as a witness, that would be really helpful, too.
We also see, bullying, in schools. We talked about that off the top. The playground bullying still happens. What can a parent do?
I always suggest first that you try and talk to your child and have your child address that other child, because I think it's part of what we do as parents is role modeling conflict resolution, how to communicate when things aren't going well. So I would start there. Second, I would go to the teacher and explain it to the teacher. Next level would be the principal, and maybe even a meeting between your family and that family, because I think you know, if your child is the bullier, you would want to be involved as well, and you don't want your child to bully either.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good place to start, and if necessary, there's a school board.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Steph, thanks so much for
Sure,
joining us.
my
Really
pleasure,
appreciate
Derick.
it. Don't go anywhere. We head into the next hour of Breakfast Television. We'll have your headline news, and Catherine will update you on what you can expect out there on the roads. It looks like it's starting to get busy out there.